everybody, it's Romania Black. We are on Attack on Titan Season 3, Part 2, Episode 15, technically Episode 52, Descent. Ooh. I see, descent can mean a lot of things, right? Descent can mean a lot of things. It could mean like a descendant. Maybe it's tied to something genetic. It could mean descent into the damn basement. It could mean a lot of things. I'm hoping it's the latter. I hope we're finally getting to that basement. Although I don't know the trajectory of how we're getting from Reiner being attacked by the scouts, by the Survey Corps, to getting to that basement. But descent just means like you're going down into something. It just feels like that seems like where we're going. And so I'm very curious to know if that ends up, or descent could mean like the downfall of things. Like maybe the Survey Corps thinks that they have Reiner. I don't think Reiner's dead. No way. Reiner's done something. Those big flashes at the end, something's happened. And so, episode 14 is coming out on Patreon tomorrow, and episode 12 of part 1 is coming out on YouTube tomorrow. So I am recording ahead because obviously spoilers. I'm trying to avoid spoilers. I've made it this far. And I know season 3 part 2, everybody's been like spoilers, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna try my best to curb them. I do have notes from episode 11 and episode 13. I have notes from y'all, which some of them I'm gonna say before the reaction, and some of them I'm going to save till afterwards. The ones I'm going to save before the reaction pertain to this episode coming up, and the rest of them are kind of notes from previous episodes that I'm going to kind of gloss over probably at the end of the discussion, unless it comes up in the discussion with this episode. But I do want to note a few things. Trung Ta noted that I'm an idiot. I kept saying in episode 13, I was like, it's only been 4 months since Shiganshina, and they were like, don't you mean like 4 years? I was like, oh! I was getting Trost confused with Shiganshina. Brain melt. So yeah, it's been 5 years since they've been at Shiganshina, which is crazy, right? It feels so weird that in episodes 1 and 2, we had like a 5-year time span go by. And then ever since episode 5, it's been a matter of months. Like the timeline has just like, it started out, a lot of stuff happened over a big period of time. And then it's like, a lot of stuff has happened over a very small period of time. So it's been kind of crazy. But yes, it's been 5 years since Shiganshina. It's only been like 4 months since Trost. Gotcha. Great job. It's been like 4 months since Reiner and Bertholdt got away from the group, basically. So thank you for that. There's a really cool discussion about Armin and Eren from episode 13 and the idea of being a slave to freedom. And both Moth and Cole on Patreon pointed out something really cool. And I liked Moth's understanding that Armin is a slave, according to Moth. Moth was commenting that Armin is a slave to freedom in terms of just wanting to be free from the walls. Eren is wanting to obtain freedom. He's a slave to freedom by whoever has put them there. So there is a distinction there, right? And Cole kind of elaborated on that, saying that Armin reminds Eren in episode 13 of kind of the non-violent way to reach their dream, because both Eren and Armin have similar dreams. Eren's approach is just, we've got to kill Reiner, Bertolt, and everyone involved. We've got to kill all the people that could put us in the walls to obtain freedom. Whereas Armin's dream is more non-violent in that I just want to get out of the walls. I don't really want to kill anybody. And so Armin's kind of that reminder to Eren that there is a non-violent approach to that dream. It's just Eren's not going to do it because Eren's like, no, we swore vengeance and we're going to get it. And it's like, well, Isayama's putting some themes out there that might not be the best approach. But again, we'll tie back to friends and bystander later. Also needed to be noted, Moth also commented on how Reiner saving Armin back in season 1. Again, Reiner, Bertolt, and Annie have all kind of spared Armin in a sense, right? In the weirdest way. And it may have been their biggest downfall. Reiner didn't attack Armin right off the bat in episode 13 into 14. Bertolt didn't directly attack Armin back in episode 11 of season 2, and Annie spared Armin back in Smile and Mercy. So there is a sense that the Titan shifters, the warrior crew, sparing Armin may have been one of the biggest mistakes that they've made. But Moth pointed out that there could be a reason for that, in that there was a theory going around, according to them, apparently around the time the manga and stuff was happening, that Armin could have been royal family. And I hadn't even thought of that, so I don't really consider that a spoiler. I'm like, I haven't even thought of that because he's got blonde hair. It's like, oh, so maybe there were some people that were theorizing at the time that maybe the reason Reiner and them spared Armin and didn't try to attack him is because they thought that maybe he would be connected to like Historia and the royal family. That's an interesting thought. I never would have thought that because Armin, there doesn't seem to be any connection to that, but I think that's interesting that that could be the character motivation of why they wouldn't want to attack, that maybe they thought Armin was the coordinate. I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. That's an interesting theory. I like that. CW, thank you for pointing out on Patreon that there actually is kind of a mistranslation with the translation on the subtitles for episode 13, talking about the line that Armin says, if only Wall Maria was retaken. They commented saying that it's kind of a mistranslation and that in reality what it's saying in Japanese is, now if Wall Maria was retaken. And it's like, okay, that makes a lot more sense because it seemed like Isayama was suggesting that like, if only Wall Maria was retaken, it's like, oh, you're setting us up that this is going to be a failure anyway. But CW pointed out it's a mistranslation and that it's supposed to be, now if Wall Maria was retaken, and then it's like, fill in the blank, what would humanity do? What would they feel? What would be their sense of freedom? Makes a lot more sense. I'm like, okay. I like that. So thank you, CW, for pointing that out. I really appreciate that. And then the last thing I'm going to say before, I've got lots of other comments, but I'm going to save them for after in the discussion because maybe they'll pop up. But the one thing I did want to comment is that Tony Simi made a really cool observation with episode 13 that Armin getting promoted from Erwin is kind of like when Pixis promoted Ian. And I was like, oh, yeah, way back in episode 11 and 12 of season 1, Pixis promoting Ian to be a leader and to take charge. It's kind of like what Erwin's doing with Armin. Now, having said that, that terrifies me because that we know what happened to Ian. Ian got eaten and he died. And he died sacrificing himself. And we have talked about in this show how Armin likes to gamble, not with other people's lives, but his own life. And I'm like, Tony, why you say that? Because now I'm going to be worried about Armin. But I thought that was really cool. This season so far has started out very oddly, this second part. I feel like part 2 of season 3, it has the same vibe as season 1. It has the same vibe, like the action and everything, and like the military, the battle, like the war movie-esque part of it. It's like season 1, but with the knowledge of season 3, part 1. So it's like season 1 all over again, but now we have the knowledge of everything else that's happened since season 1, and so it's a weird dynamic. It's a very weird tonal shift. It's subtle, but I notice it, right? But yeah. So yeah, I got off work. I was like, got myself some tea. I was like, you know what? Why not? Why don't we watch episode 15? I've been holding out a few days. I was like, I'm going to wait, and now I'm like, So, as per usual, I'm going to skip the OP. I'm going to skip it when I get to it. I'm just going to pop right by it. But then other than that, there's no feeling of, there is a feeling of nervousness going into these episodes, but there's also a feeling of, I don't know, because I don't know what's going to happen. These episodes, we obviously have to settle what happened to Reiner, but other than that, this battle is a free-for-all. I have no clue what's going to happen, and I'm excited by that, but also genuinely terrified. So, with that being said, let's not waste any more time with this. I've, talked for 9 minutes. So we are going to start episode 15, episode 52 altogether of season 3, part 2 here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. Okay. Oh my God. That episode, I don't think I've been quiet for a reaction like that episode, but the whole time I was just like, that completely, I'm blown out of the water by, my brain was short-circuiting throughout the entire thing because I was like, this is paralleling with this character is paralleling with that, this character is making decisions that we've talked about with Kenny and Uri. It's all, Isayama set the stage. Y'all were right. Several of you commented, you're like, Isayama set the stage with part 1, with all these thematic elements saying, here's the theme of the show, this is the theme. And now, in part 2, we are taking those themes and we are challenging them and we're putting them into action. And it's like, oh, this episode, I was floored. I was speechless. I was like, y'all warned me. And well, you didn't warn me, but some of you were like, Marco, we're not done with him. And ever since that one thing with Reiner, way back in season 2, episode 9, episode 9 of season 2, that conversation with Bertolt and Reiner, we came back to it this episode, but that whole flashback where Reiner was having the freak out and the soldier versus warrior personas were trying to fight and take over him. And we had that flashback with Marco, and it's Marco that he was pinning down that was screaming Reiner. It was Marco in the flashback that had his arms behind his back, and it was Reiner remembering tying Marco up and basically just leaving him to die because he knew he was too sharp and he knew too much. There's so many character parallels in this episode. There was so many characters paralleling with other characters, messages paralleling with others. Is Armin Uri 2.0? Like, is he? He might be. He might be. And we finally got the war chief, the Beast Titan's name, Zeke. Zeke is his name. War chief. I didn't imagine his name would be Zeke. Zeke is not the name I would imagine for him. That's interesting. I'm like, Zeke. Okay. I wonder if it's for Ezekiel. Maybe it's like short for Ezekiel, or it's just Zeke. It's very interesting. It's an odd name. I would not have pegged that to be his name. But what an episode. Oh my God, Descent. We need to talk about what that's referring to, because it's not going into the basement. That's for sure. You could argue it's a literal, it's Reiner, it's Bertolt descending down and becoming the Colossal Titan. It could be the themes of there being peace and harmony just descending into nothingness, into madness, the whole situation descending into madness. Oh my God, and Erwin atop that wall just staring at it, just like, as it's all, and asking the Beast Titan if this is all part of his plan, if this is going the way he planned it. And that at the end where Zeke just does the ear scratching like he does with Mike when he was talking to Mike. Like, yeah, everything's all as planned. Yeah, we're going to need... I had to bring Whiteboard Coon out because I was like, usually for Whiteboard Coon, we talk about like parallels or like plot points. No, today's episode of Whiteboard Coon is going to be talking about character parallels and the themes, everything just... That's my thought, basically. So, Descent. Yeah, what an episode. Is it weird? Is it weird that it's oddly satisfying to finally get closure with Marco? Is that weird to say? Because I was horrified that Marco, he knew too much. He found out too much. He found out too much and they silenced him. And it's just like the damn military police. We're going to talk about the parallels. But yeah, Marco knew too much. And I wondered that back in the episode. I was like, did Marco find out too much? But I did not expect Reiner to literally force Annie to take the ODM gear off of him. And as punishment, it was almost as punishment. He was punishing her for saving Connie and putting herself in danger. He was punishing her, which is so hypocritical in a way, because I'm like, Reiner, you saved Connie back. Everybody's saving Connie, right? I was like, Annie saved Connie. Reiner, you saved Connie. Have you punished yourself? And maybe he has mentally. I was just like, wait, hold on. So I was like, you punished Annie by making her take off Marco's gear because you think that she's getting too attached to them. Okay, but we're going to talk about this. So lots of parallels. Lots of parallels with characters and themes, the whole 9 yards. It's just, oh my God. I have notes that I didn't talk about from the previous episodes, but they don't really quite relate to this yet. They're kind of more geared towards episode 11 and episode 13. I will go ahead and talk about some things with the serum when we get to it, because Zeke made a note. Zeke is weird. He's a weird character. I'm just going to say it right off the bat. The Beast Titan, Zeke, War Chief Zeke, I can't get a read on him at all. I can't get a read on him. I don't know if he's serious or if he's joking, or he's so hard to read. I don't know how to feel about him yet. There's part of me that thinks, I'm like, Isayama, are you trying to make him a joke character? Because like a funny character? Because he does the whole like, he goes, oh, it's hot. Like, and it's coffee, by the way. They're like, what's this mysterious substance? It's coffee. The characters in this world don't know what coffee is. But when he burns his tongue on the coffee, I'm like, and he made like a joke of it. I'm like, is he supposed to be funny? But then he's scary. But then he's basically threatening Reiner to kill Reiner, basically. I mean, he threatened to kill Reiner, essentially. He was like, do I need to give your armor to someone else? And we're going to talk about that. But he's like, do I need to give your armor to someone else? Meaning, like, do I need to kill you and let someone else become the armored titan? Is what he was suggesting. It's read between the lines. And I'm like, he says all these disturbing and weird things, but then Isayama makes him do like a funny little... It's odd, okay? It's odd because you have a character like Kenny, and Kenny was supposed to be funny. Like, he was threatening. Kenny was a threatening character. And my dog wants me to play with him, but it's not happening. We have to talk about Attack on Titan. No. So, he's like right here. It's funny because Isayama plays him up right off the bat to be like the funny uncle character, right? He's like a funny uncle. Is Zeke supposed to be like that? It's weird because Kenny is played up to be like the funny uncle character. I commented back in episode 2 of season 3 that Kenny doing like the funny walk into the bar, like when he says the kaboom and he's like Yahoo and does this. He's terrifying because he could kill you, and he's very capable of doing that, and he seems to have the moral, like, lack of moral conscience. He's like, let's just kill him. I don't care if I kill you, Levi. Even though we find out later he did care for Levi. But the point is, Kenny was set up to be an intimidating character, but kind of a goofy one, right? By Isayama. I'm like, are you trying to do the same thing with Zeke? Because it's weird. Isayama in this episode, there are moments where I'm like, I don't feel threatened by Zeke. But then there are other moments where he says random things like, I'll kill you, Reiner, if you don't do this. And he says it very straight-faced, like with no emotion. It's like, oh, we are supposed to be terrified of him. And in the Beast Titan form, he is scary and very intimidating. So, Zeke, I'm going to put a big old question mark by old Zeke here. Zeke is curious. I don't know how I'm supposed to feel about him. Except all we know at this point is that he is the war chief. Whatever that means. He is the war chief. He is the Beast Titan. And he is clearly the leader of the operation. He is the head honcho. There is no question about that. And I think that we all knew that from the last season and from season 2 that he was the head honcho. He seems to be the one in charge of this. Now, is he taking orders from anyone himself? Has someone else put him in charge and been like, okay, Zeke, you lead this mission? That's the big question, though. So I've got a couple notes here, and I want to bring them up. And so this is probably a good time as any before we even start this episode, right? It's a good time as any to point out. P.S. noted this very funny conundrum. And there's a conundrum with the whole thing with the Titans, in that I talked in the last season and in part 1 about when I had my whole Eren as an antagonist theory. I was like, Eren, when we found out in episode 6 and episode 7 that the Titan shifters can eat other Titan shifters and gain their powers, I was like, well, what if a Titan just ate all the Titan shifters and it was like Pokemon, just collect all the badges, like you collect all the powers, like it's like Captain Planet. What if, you gather them all together? Wouldn't that be, you'd be like the ultimate Titan, right? If you had all the powers. If you were Colossal, you had the Armored Titan, you had the coordinate powers. Like if you had all those together, you'd be incredibly strong, like nigh invincible, right? And PS brought up that there's a weird conundrum with all that. And I agree with you, PS. And the conundrum is, okay, well, with this series, if you had if you had one Titan shifter having all the Titan shifter powers, that seems like it would be ideal. But then if that one Titan shifter dies, then all the Titan shifter powers are gone. That's it. Unless someone eats them and gains the abilities and it passes on to someone else, if that Titan is killed or just dies, then it's it. That's it. Game over, right? So there's a downside to that. And plus, if one person has all the power, then there's a lot of factors there, right, that you have to consider. So I could see why the Titan shifters or the Titans wouldn't want just one person having all the powers. That makes sense. But then the conundrum is, if there are more Titan shifters, that's the one thing I'm still curious about, is how many more Titan shifters are there out there, if any? If any. Or if Zeke was just saying he would have some random Titan eat Reiner and become the Armored Titan, and he would just boss that Titan shifter around, right? That Armored Titan around. He's like, well, you're expendable. He was basically saying to Reiner in the moment, Zeke was going, you are expendable. And if you don't do this properly, I'll just have another Titan come over and eat you, and I'll hold you down, make him eat you, and then they'll become the Armored Titan, and maybe they'll do a better job than you. Who knows? That's kind of what he was suggesting. So there's a part of me that's like, are there other Titan shifters, or is it just Reiner, Bertolt? Is it just the ones we've named? Because PS points out, if there had been more Titan shifters from the start, why didn't they all just attack Shiga and Sheena together? But I would counter with that, and I'm not arguing with you, PS, I agree with you. The thing that complicates that is, why didn't the Beast Titan go from the start too? Right? Why did the Beast Titan hang back? Why did he send these 4? We still don't know what Marcel's Titan was. We still don't know what Marcel's power was. So I'm like, why would the Beast Titan hang back? Unless they were afraid of Grisha, right? Unless they knew Grisha was a Titan shifter and they were afraid Grisha would do something. We still don't know what Grisha's Titan shifter power is. We don't know what it was. And if Eren has access, we assume Eren has access to it, but Eren doesn't know what it is. And we assume he hasn't accessed it yet to our knowledge. So there's that. I'm like, why'd the Beast Titan hang back and let these 4 children who were 10 years old at the time go do this really important job of destroying humanity and finding the coordinate? That's the weird part about all of this, the more I think about it. And I keep going back to the idea that the Beast Titan just hung out and had 4 children that he sent to go do this insane mission. Why didn't he go with them? And if Zeke is the war chief, they don't call him a king. They don't call him the king. They say war chief, but not just chief, right? Because usually if it was like chief, it would suggest they're the boss, they're the main head honcho. But war chief sounds like a subdivision position. It sounds like it sounds like Erwin, like a commander position, right? It doesn't sound like the king. It doesn't sound like the head, right? War chief sounds like if you have a council of people, your war chief is in charge of the military, but not, which would make sense. He's really smart and he's using military tactics in this. Makes sense. But it seems like he's a position in a group of people. He's one person in a group, not the leader. Unless he was part of that council, but the rest of the council is dead. We don't know that. There's still so much of the Titan side we don't know. But I like that we're getting just little tiny glimpses, little tiny crumbs. Like learning Zeke's name is really big because now I don't have to call him the Beast Titan anymore. I can call him Zeke. So, we need to start this episode. But yeah, PS points out that conundrum of the Titan shifters versus, he points out the conundrum of, you don't want one Titan shifter to have all the powers. There's too many factors that can go wrong there. You want there to be multiple Titan shifters because you're stronger in numbers, right? If there was one Titan shifter in this operation right here, even if it was Bertolt, we'll talk about Bertolt, but even if it was just Bertolt, there's too many factors that can go wrong, right? Eventually they'll maybe run out of energy. Eventually they could be, ambushed or even though Bertolt's huge, I'm still wondering how in the world we're going to deal with this. Yeah, there's too many factors. So if something went wrong and they died, that's the end. That's the end of the game. Game over. Versus if you have multiple Titans, you can work together, you can strategize more. There's more pieces on the chessboard. Basically, if you think about it, Bertolt is like the queen piece, right? Bertolt is the queen piece, right? I'm going to draw a little curvy queen piece. Yeah, Bertolt is the queen piece on the chessboard, right? As far as we know. And the reason I say the queen piece is because in chess, the queen piece can move anywhere. The queen piece has the most power, right? But it's still just a chess piece. If you take the queen out, then you've taken the queen out. The other pieces are still there, right? So Bertolt is literally the queen chess piece on the board. He's huge enough, he's big enough, he can move anywhere. Reiner made the comment that he is the strongest Titan out there. We'll talk about that in my notes here in a second. So Bertolt is the strongest Titan, I think, on the board right now. He's the queen piece. He can move anywhere he wants to. He can go anywhere across the board. But he's not the end-all, be-all piece to end the game. The king piece, you have to beat the king piece to win chess. And I think the coordinate, the founding Titan, is the king piece. So that's why they need Eren. They want the coordinate. That's the king piece on the board. Once they have that, then it's checkmate, right? So, interesting. But the more pieces you have, my point with the chess metaphor is that you can take Bertolt out and still play chess, right? If there are other pieces on the board, even if the queen's taken out, you have other pieces that can be played. In the case, if you only have the queen piece on the board and you take it out, then it's game over. So it'd be advantageous to have more Titan shifters than just one. But that also leads to a lot more factors of what happens if someone else gains one Titan shifter's power, like what Eren's done. Then it kind of messes up the game. So it's a big conundrum. It's interesting. I have a feeling that I'm going to go back to that chess metaphor here in a little bit when we talk about Armin. I have a feeling. I'm going to keep that chess metaphor in the back of my mind because the conversations and the parallels with these characters were crazy this episode. So I do want to comment real quick that both Coco, HJL, and also CW, and you commented earlier, CW, but another comment was about the vials. So CW pointed out that there's somebody on the internet, of course there's someone on the internet that's done this, that actually translated what the vials read. And I'm like, cool, awesome. Someone had the time to do it. Thank you. Great. But they commented that the vial with Levi, if you move the kanji around, because that's the language is just like reorganized kanji or reorganized Japanese characters, that if you move the characters around, the vial that Levi has is just normal. Just says normal Titan. Makes sense. So whoever gets injected with the serum that Levi has is just going to turn into a Titan. A pure Titan, nothing fancy. Good to know. But they pointed out that someone realized that the vial that Historia was supposed to be injected with, that got injected into Rod Reese, said strongest Titan, which ties to the Colossal Titan and Bertholdt. But Coco HJL pointed out something interesting too. The Titan powers fascinate me. They pointed this out, and I agree with them on this too. They said the power of the Titan is not the same as the serum, because if the power of the Titan could be transferred via a serum, then why would you even have this cannibalistic ritual in the first place? If Frida could just inject the founding Titan into her, why would she go to the trouble of eating her uncle? Why would you even have that? Why the ritual? He pointed out a question of, are the actual powers of the Titans transferable or able to be duplicated, or is it something entirely different? And I hadn't thought about that. So we have the power of the Titan in one ring. We have the serum that changes humans into pure Titans. And then we have this weird serum that does the whole armored and strongest thing, whatever supplement that is. So there's three kind of angles with the Titans right now. There's the actual power of the Titans that we assume cannot be bottled up and duplicated. There's a serum that changes people into a pure Titan, and then they go eat the Titan shifters to gain that power. And then there's this weird supplement, this weird like armor and strongest Titan supplement that we don't know exactly what it is. Because even though Rod Reese became a giant colossal sized Titan, he wasn't a colossal Titan. He was still a pure Titan. He was just huge. So I find that really, really interesting. Is it unique? And then there's a question with Annie. Was Annie just a pure Titan what was with the Titan shifter that Annie ate? What power did they gain? Was it the power to use the armor? Or was there something else? Because they pointed out too, an interesting note, that the armor that Aaron and Annie get is silver, whereas Reiner's armor is gold. So there's a big distinction there. So I'm curious on a couple of things. I'm curious obviously about the whole thing with the serum versus the power of the Titans. But now I'm curious to know about what shifter did Annie eat, and what power did they have? Did they have the armor power originally? How does that work? So there's lots to think about and talk about, but we need to get into this episode. I'm not even into the episode yet. I've just been going through my notes. So I've got a couple of notes that I want to mention towards the end, but I'm going to save that to the very end because they don't really have anything to do with this episode. So descent. God, descent into madness, basically. Holy cow. So we go back to primal instincts, primal urges. We go back to Aaron plugging up Trost in the wall. Yeah. And going back to, man, it feels like so long ago. Season 1 feels like a decade ago. It feels like forever. And we go back to them fighting off the Titans in Trost. And so it's crazy because Bertolt and Reiner, they were not on the wall along with Pixis and Armin and the others. They weren't along the wall at the time, which is funny because thinking back, I was like, man, we didn't ever see Reiner and Annie throughout that, and Bertolt throughout the episodes, like episodes 11 through 13. We never saw them. And at the time, we didn't know that they were Titan shifters, so I didn't question it. I was so focused on Aaron and Armin and Mikasa's deal that I didn't even think about them or think about Marco or any of them. But yeah, so they have the conversation here talking about how it's crazy that they're going to plug up the hole. And then they're like, well, Aaron might get eaten. That's really risky. And if that happens, we still won't know a thing. Meaning that if he gets eaten, yeah, And if it comes to it, I'll have to do something with my Titan somehow. So Reiner was suggesting, he's like, yeah, if Eren gets eaten, we're not going to know if he was the coordinate or not. I guess it'll just pass on to someone else, right? Or I guess they're assuming if he gets eaten and the Nate doesn't get bitten, then what happens then? And Reiner's like, well, I'll probably have to transform and something will have to happen. And Bertolt says if their plan works, it'll plug up the hole we finally opened. And it doesn't matter. And then they both say, we've been searching for a clue these past 5 years and we finally found it. So they've been looking the past 5 years for some clue to the coordinate, some clue to lead them there. They've been searching this whole time. Oh, that's crazy to know that they've been actively searching for the coordinate and just looking for any hints or guesses that might lead them to them. And of course it makes sense now why why they'd want to go into the military police. God, it makes sense. Because, yeah, if they go into the military police, all of them, that they did it under the ruse that they would be safer in the interior wall. They did it under the guise of that. But when you think about it, if they've been looking for a clue to lead to the coordinate, Zeke, for all we know, Zeke knows inside information. It seems like Grisha knew inside info. So I'm assuming Grisha and Zeke are the older ones of this group that we know of. They're the eldest, obviously. So if Grisha learned things, who's to say that Zeke didn't either? I'm not sure if Grisha was faking the memory loss or what, or was just gathering intel. I don't know. We don't know enough about it. But, I mean, it would make sense for them to go into the military police because not only are they in the interior walls, they're closest to the government where they can do the most damage, obviously in Titan form, but that'd be a great place for them to find intel because while they're in the military police, they could work their way to the inner circle, get closer to Rod Reese, to the military and the royal family, and then figure out what's going on from there, and then attack and strike once they learn all the info that they need to. That makes so much more sense now. Yep. Okay. Cool. But yeah. And then, oh my God, Marco, my honey, what were you just talking about? And that moment they both turn around. Oh my God, that moment. Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. Yep. That I'm gonna screenshot that because that's such a look that Marco, you're too damn sharp. Yeah. Marco being a damn precious angel saying, what do you mean by my Titan, Reiner? What do you mean by my Titan? What do you mean about the hole we opened, Bertolt? It's like, no! Yep. And then Reiner's the first one to be like, you gotta die, Marco. And Marco tries to cover. He's like, and Reiner at first says that conversation was a joke. He was just, and he's like, huh. And oh my God, here's the thing. When Marco says, Marco saying, have you guys lost it? This isn't like you. It's Marco paralleling Eren in Warrior. Marco paralleling Eren in Warrior when Reiner was like, come on, Eren, we've been trying to destroy humanity all this time. You should join us and just come with us and we won't have to destroy anything more. It sounded like a joke. And so Marco telling them, being like, this isn't like you. Why are you being like this? Is like Eren in Warrior telling him, like, why are you guys suggesting this? This isn't like you. It's the parallels in this episode are amazing. He's like, we got to focus on the mission. Look, the Titans are coming. Let's go. And Funimation, damn it. Funimation was lagging this whole episode. I hate it. I hate it so much. I would just go to Crunchyroll. I'm almost tempted to just go to Crunchyroll and watch these episodes because I get so much better reception there for some reason. I don't know why. But when Marco looks back and has that jolt of fear, that like instinctual, when you know that was the worst part. It's like when you know something's wrong and something bad's about to happen, you get that like that jolt of anxiety. When Marco looks back and sees Reiner and Bertolt just staring at him, it's like he knew. Ugh. Yeah, he knew. And then he just went on like he was going to keep going. And then Marco's trying to reason. He's like, Eren transformed into a Titan. Marco's trying to figure it out. He was like, humans can become Titans. He's like, that means that if the Colossal Titan appeared out of nowhere and suddenly vanished, they were a human. Like, Marco figured it all out. Our boy Marco, our cinnamon bun saint, he figured it all out. He figured it all out, and it didn't. And then Reiner attacked him. And then Bertolt was like, oh. And I want to point out Bertolt standing behind in the shadows. Like this whole time. This was Bertolt's episode, by far. This was Bertolt's episode. The thumbnail is going to be a Bertolt somehow. It was Bertolt's episode. But, yeah, it was Bertolt going from being in the shadows to taking charge and taking a stand and making a decision. That's what this episode was. Oh, my God. But, yeah, Bertolt starting from the shadows. And we get the shot from episode 9 of Reiner asking if it was a joke. And he's like, the problem is you're too damn sharp. No, Marco. Oh, my God. That was so hard. I was like, I hated it. And Marco was like asking for help. And then Annie shows up. And Annie asking her to help him. And then Reiner, God. And then the thing of it is, and again, Bertolt's in the shadows the whole time. And then Reiner saying, we can't let him live. He heard our conversation. And then Annie looking so distraught. And then them seeing a Titan coming. So there's some interesting dialogue in this conversation. There's some really interesting dialogue. But Reiner making Annie take off the ODM gear. Oh my God, it's awful. And her asking why she has to. And him saying, well, you down in the basement, you risked your life for Connie. Why'd you do that? You should have just let the Titan kill him. You put yourself in danger. And then he says, have you become attached to this evil race or something? So, again, the whole idea of the evil race. That humanity is the evil race. Like, what the hell? Frida called them sinners. Reiner calls them the evil race. Like we know humanity's done some shitty things, but why? Yeah. And Annie looks so distraught. And he's like, if I'm wrong, prove it to me now. Oh my God. And he says, if you and your father waiting for you to come home. So I'm assuming that Annie's father. So that's what makes me believe that there are more people, maybe not Titan shifters necessarily, but maybe. Because Annie's father, are we assuming that Annie's father maybe lives outside the walls? Like Reiner and Bertholdt? I had questioned whether Annie, because Ymir, we assume Ymir's from outside the walls. That's where her and her people were from. And then, no. We assume that they're from outside the walls. And then my dog is wanting me to play with him. We assume that they're from outside the walls. And we assume that Annie was from outside the walls like Bertolt and Reiner. So that would make sense that her dad is too. But I'm like, if her dad wasn't a Titan shifter, was he? Or did Annie eat her father to become the female Titan? We don't know. But him saying your father waiting for you to come home, like, that line irks me because it makes me think that there are people that aren't Titan shifters outside the walls waiting on them. But then I'm like, how are they different than humanity? What's the difference? Why is humanity inside the walls viewed as a different race than the warrior crew? Again, questions. Questions. Reiner, makes sense. So yeah, yeah, and then Bertolt's like, the Titan's almost here. And Annie does it. And because she doesn't want to fail as a warrior. Right? She doesn't want to fail as a warrior. And poor Marco, bless his heart. And him like screaming at her, begging her not to do it. And I was with Marco. I'm like, why are you doing this? And when he like looks in her face, and he's like, why are you doing this? That in Annie's face, Annie looks terrified. Like, I've never seen Annie look so scared. I've never seen Annie look that scared in my life in watching this show. That is just, oh my God. And Reiner says, this is what makes us warriors. And he tells her she did well. And then that's when Marco realizes that they're all together, that they're all Titan shifters together. Marco just looking blankly ahead. And then Marco saying they were waiting for the Titans to gather. And then they just left him there. But, and of course it's Bertolt that says this, that hears this. Yeah. So we got to talk about this, but the idea, we haven't even talked this out. Had a chance to talk this through. And then that's when they see Marco getting eaten. And it all goes back to that scene from episode 9. And Reiner is so horrified that to cope with what he's just done, because this was technically all Reiner's fault. To cope with it, Reiner goes back to the soldier persona and questions why Marco was eaten. Yeah. He doubled down and just like retreated into that other persona. God. So we need to talk about negotiation. Negotiation and communication. Forming a dialogue. These were all things that Uri and Kenny were doing. Yep. The damn miracle. Tying back to Uri. I never thought I'd mention Uri again, but here we are. Uri and the miracle. And I'm going to use a different color on this one. But yeah, the idea of the miracle. That they should not have become friends. But they did. Because they didn't kill each other. Because they didn't instantly kill each other. Because Uri, for all his flaws, Uri did not kill Kenny. Even though Kenny wanted to kill him. He sat down and made Kenny have a dialogue with him. And admitted... They both took responsibility. And they formed this friendship. Now, sure, murder and stuff came out of that friendship. But the fact of the matter is, they had a dialogue. And they fostered that relationship, right? And so, on one end, we had Marco that wanted to do this. Marco wanted to talk to them. And be like, we haven't talked this through. He's like, why can't we just negotiate and have this conversation? But Reiner stopped that. I'm going to put Reiner no. Reiner wouldn't let that happen. So, this episode was very frustrating because you can see what Uri was talking about from episode 10 being brought up in this episode, and thematically it's like Isayama saying like, look what could happen. We're not going to do that. And then we cut forward. And obviously it's Reiner thinking about that flashback with Marco. It's funny because in episode 9 of season 2, you had Reiner thinking back to that horrific moment where Marco died. And in this episode, it cuts to Bertolt thinking about that. So that's all very interesting. So then they're drinking the coffee together, right? And it's just the three of them. And so we have Zeke. We have sweet, sweet Zeke here saying that, I'm sure Annie's okay. I'm sure Annie's fine. There's no way she's getting tortured. For starters, don't you think that that's unlikely? And it's weird because Zeke's wearing kind of like the duster and stuff that Bertolt was wearing. See, this is what was confusing me at the end of episode 12, right? Because Bertolt was wearing the same duster like what Zeke is wearing. But that's not Bertolt's style at all. And so, but then in this episode, Bertolt's not wearing the duster. So I'm like, it was very confusing. It was a weird animation choice, I'm just going to say. So they have all their supplies there. And Zeke makes the note that with powers like ours, one scratch and we can pretty much handle anything. And he scratches his ear. He does the same thing with his ear that he does in Beast Titan form. And he says, and remember, it's Annie we're talking about here. Like, he scratches his ear in Titan form. And I don't know if that's a nervous tick or why he does that. But it's a nice little characteristic. It's like a little monkey scratch. It's a weird characteristic that he does. And he does it throughout this episode. It's interesting. Yeah, I bet she's in hiding somewhere practicing her kicks or not. I wonder if he does that when he's lying. I wonder if he scratches his ear like that when he's lying. Because with Mike, he played dumb back in episode 1 of season 2. He was like, oh, can't you understand me? Like, he was doing that. Like, he was clearly playing Mike, right? He was trolling him, right? He was trolling him, like just toying with him, right? And at the end of this episode, when Erwin looks over at the Beast Titan, the Beast Titan's like he's toying with Erwin. So when Zeke says, I bet she's in hiding somewhere practicing her kicks and whatnot, he does that gesture. And I wonder if if he's lying, if he's toying with Bertolt and Reiner to make them feel better. He probably doesn't know what they're doing with her. But, I mean, it's safe to assume that she's probably not being tortured, but he doesn't really know what's going on. And Reiner brings up a good point. He's like, there's no mistaking that our identity was revealed. They know who she is. And then Bertolt's like, even if it's Annie. And then Zeke says, oh, does this mean you're not fully committed yet? And they get scared. And they get scared of him. He's like, is that right? And what about the agreement we came to? Was it all for nothing? See, this is getting weird. I want to point out that Zeke has blonde hair and blue eyes, like Historia. Okay, I'm still my whole Zeke is royalty train. Is Zeke royalty? Is Zeke related to the three sisters? Is he related to royalty? We don't know. Here's my thing. Ever since we've learned about the Beast Titan, and ever since I've learned that this blonde-haired, ripped dude is inside of it, I've been wondering if it's a callback to Isayama doing the blonde monster in the season 2 ED. There's the blonde monster at the very beginning, and the blonde monster is standing in front of a blonde woman holding out the fruit, right? And in Historia's book, that girl was called Krista, and the character Krista is doing the very similar gesture of holding out fruit to the monster in the cloak with the lantern that I think is like a representation of a Titan, right? Because it kind of looks like Ymir. So it would make sense. What if Zeke or Zeke's ancestor or whatever was one of the original Titans, had the blonde hair and everything, and what if one of the sisters, one of the three daughters of the royal family, ate that Titan and gained its power, or gave their power? Maybe the three daughters had the powers of the Titans, the armor, the colossal, and what if the three daughters were like the beast, armor, and colossal, and then you had the founding Titan that was the father? And so what if the one sister that had the Beast Titan, maybe it's not really called Beast Titan, that's just what humanity is calling it. What if the girl with the Beast Titan powers gave that power to like an ancestor of Zeke, or to her son, maybe, which could be Zeke's ancestor, and then they gained that power and has been passing it on from generation to generation? Maybe that's it, right? Who knows? And Zeke is just an inheritor of that power down the line, kind of like what the Reese family's been doing with Frida, and like the Fritz Reese family. They've been passing down the coordinate powers from generation to generation. Maybe this Beast Titan power has been passed down from generation to generation, and Zeke is just the latest person to get it. Maybe that's the case. The whole blonde hair with blue eyes thing, it seems so much like Historia that I can't overlook it, because it's like Isayama could have made their hair color anything, right? Especially because the Beast Titan doesn't have blonde hair. So I'm just gonna like file it away. But that's interesting. So yeah, so Zeke says, what about the agreement we came to? Was that all for nothing? So Zeke has made some kind of deal. Zeke has made a deal with Reiner and Bertholdt and Annie, we're assuming. And they are desperate to get this mission done so that Zeke will uphold whatever end of the deal is. I get very Deal with the Devil vibes here, even though they're calling humanity a filthy race. I can't read Zeke at all. I can't. And he's so serious and deadpan though. Like he's not sinister. He's not threatening. He's just very matter of fact. He's like, did you forget our deal? Like, are you not committed to the cause? And they are both terrified of him. And he's like, we can go at it again if you want, Reiner. Like, he just says it very nonchalantly, like, I'm game. But the next time you lose, you give up your armor to another warrior. Meaning, basically, if you lose to me again, I'm going to let someone else eat you. Which is it's a weird threat, because you're on the verge, which they have these other Titans around them, though. I guess it's not really a lofty threat, because Zeke had all these Titans transform when Erwin and them showed up, and he had the Scout, the quadruped Titan there. So I guess Zeke's saying, if you face me again and lose, I'm going to give one of these other Titans your powers, and you'll just die, and I'll just let them eat you. Again, he's so calm about it. It's kind of creepy. I can't read Zeke at all. I get no read on him. He's weird. And he's like, that's not what I meant. And Reiner gets really frustrated. And he's like, then pull yourself together. We have one goal. To recover the coordinate. One goal. To recover the coordinate and put an end to this cursed history. That's a huge statement. that's a statement that's layered with 12 questions right off the bat. Like, why is it cursed history? Whose cursed history? Why is humanity an evil race? What did we do? What did we do this time? What's going on? Why are the Titan shifters considering themselves a different race than humanity? If we establish that the Titan shifters were humans that were turned into Titans, that once you become a Titan, are you automatically a different race? Are Bertolt and Reiner and Annie the children of other Titan shifters? How does this work? I thought I had all my questions answered. And then Isayama was like, no, you didn't. it's like, damn it, Isayama, what? So, okay. To put an end to this cursed history, I guess they're referring to just destroying humanity in the walls and recovering the Titans within the walls, but that's still... I am curious about a couple things, okay? I am curious about a couple things. One, and this is a question I feel like I obviously don't want you to answer it for me because I have a feeling Isayama's gonna explain it, but if they want... I guess that the Titans inside the wall, they can't do anything with them because maybe the coordinate has ordered them to stay there. And they can't do anything about the Titans inside the walls until they get the coordinate. Because in hindsight, I'm like, they can clearly break the wall. Like, the Beast Titan, Annie, and Reiner have been shown to make cracks inside the walls. And they can get inside of the wall. So it stands to reason that they would be able to burrow inside. If they can make a crack in the wall and hide inside of it, like they did in episode 13, then there's no reason they can't create enough of a fissure to destroy the entire wall, right? And at least break some of those Titans out of there. There's no reason to think they couldn't do that. I don't think. So the question would be, why wouldn't they just do that? If they want to destroy humanity, why not bust these Titans out and have them help you? But on the other end of the spectrum, I guess... That was in Stohess, though, right? That was in Stohess. So, in Stohess, we saw there were Titans in the walls. So, I've been assuming this whole time that there are Titans inside all of the walls, like Rose, Maria, and Sheena. It could be one that there are only Titans, actual physical, gigantic, 50-meter tall Titans inside the walls of Sheena. Could be that. There's just Titans inside those walls, not the other two. That could be one, but I don't think that's it. It could be that two, they could bust all the Titans out, but they won't. Well, yeah, that's a good point. Maybe these Titans that are inside the walls are just pure Titans that are massive, kind of like the Rod Reese Turkey Titan, because the Rod Reese Turkey Titan was a giant, massive Titan. He just was dumb. He was a pure Titan. He just had he looked kind of skeletal with the muscular, shape like Bertolt and Reiner and Annie. So I guess it stands to reason that maybe the Titans inside the walls are just pure Titans that drank that strongest Titan serum and all just were giant 50-meter Titans, but they're all dumb. And the coordinate had them all, the founding Titan had them all arranged in the forms of a wall and then hardened their skin and formed the walls around them. That could be it, maybe. And so if they break them out and the sun comes out, they'll just be pure Titans, so they'll just be dumb, and they'll just attack. But I'd say they're going to just attack Bertolt and Reiner, but Bertolt and Reiner could get out of there. So why didn't they just bust them out and let them destroy humanity if that was the case? Why didn't they just bust the walls, let sunshine, wake up these Titans inside the walls, and let them just destroy humanity naturally? Why are you waiting? I guess that they want the coordinate for some reason. The coordinate has some full power that Reiner was talking about that they want. They want to get the coordinate back before Eren activates the full power of that coordinate, the founding Titan. So there's clearly a reason why they haven't busted the Titans outside of the wall yet. They need the coordinate first. We just don't know why. So it's so weird. It's so weird. There's so many questions. So many questions, and I feel like we're going to get answers to those questions. It's just a matter of time. Yeah. And then Zeke says, let's end this. He says, I want all this to end with us. Why? Why with you? Why does that matter? I guess they don't want anybody else to do it. And then Bertolt says, I'll try to keep Annie out of my head for now. Funny that. And then, yeah, there's no need to put anyone else through this hell but us. And Zeke looks at him odd. Zeke kind of looks like Armin in a way. It's weird. Zeke kind of has the eyes and hair of Armin. I can see where y'all had the Historia Armin as royalty theory going on. I can see that now. Yeah, but Zeke looks at him odd. Yeah. And then Bertolt seeing Annie and Marco and Reiner crying. Bertolt says, let's end this. So, Bertolt, my dude. I'm going to put Bertolt over here in his own little category. This was definitely Bertolt's episode, for sure. And if we've got Bertolt in the category, Bertolt wants this all to end. He wants the conflict to be over. And this goes back to what Erwin said, what Erwin told Pixis. Erwin told Pixis, he's like, as long as humanity exists, there's always going to be conflict. And Bertolt wants the conflict to end. He doesn't want any more people to go through what him and Reiner and Annie and Marco and all of them have gone through. He wants the war to end. And for the war to end, one side has to be annihilated. According to his view, one side has to be annihilated for there to be... It's kind of funny because we talk about parallels. We talk about parallels between Aaron and Bertolt. The idea of the slave to freedom, right? Bertolt's kind of a slave to freedom too. Bertolt is viewing his freedom the same way that Aaron is. Aaron's like, I can't be free to go outside the walls and be myself until the people threatening me are gone. And that includes Reiner, Bertolt, and everyone else. Bertolt is saying, I can't be free to get with Annie or do anything of the things I want until the opposition is eliminated. Because if we don't eliminate humanity and we fail, then someone else is going to take our place and the cycle's going to keep going. So it's kind of funny because in that sense too, Bertolt is also similar to Historia, who wants to break the cycle. There's that connection as well. So he's relating to kind of Historia as well, Bertolt is. He wants to break the cycle. He wants it to end with them. That's it. And Zeke kind of does too. Zeke's like, I want this to end with us. So there's a lot of parallels. Basically, all the sides want this conflict to finally be over and for this war to end. But the problem is, in order for that to happen, according to them, each side thinks that in order to win, the other side has to be eliminated. There's not this dialogue happening. Because both sides believe it's not possible. That it would be a miracle, right? They don't think that could happen. And so we get a glimpse of Bertolt's resolve, and even Reiner notices it, right? And then they say War Chief Zeke. And so the quadruped Titan can talk. It can, in fact, talk. And they say enemy troops are approaching. They've reached the foot. So yeah, what the hell this quadruped Titan is? Why can't it talk? Did Zeke give it the ability to talk? Can he do that? I don't know. But yeah, and of course, in true anime fashion, Zeke's glasses hide his eyes. Like, we don't get to see what he's thinking or where he's looking at. We don't get to see where his vision is. Reiner and Bertolt are looking down at the quadruped Titan. None of the others see anything. Also funny is the fact that the quadruped Titan can speak so fluidly. It sounds kind of like Ymir when Ymir talks, but it's much more fluid. And then, yeah, they all toast each other and say, my brave warriors. It's time to settle this here and finish our mission once and for all. And then they all drink the coffee together. And so Zeke looks like he's about the same height as Reiner. So, the mission. So, my brave warriors and the mission. But then, again, that leads me to think, like, who's the mission for? Who's ordering you on this mission? Who put you up to this? There's all these questions that, like, why is there... usually if there's a mission, it's for something, right? Erwin and them have this mission for the sake of humanity. So Erwin is reporting, I mean, right now he's reporting to Historia because the royal family is just Historia. But it's not that Erwin is doing this mission namely for Historia, he's doing it for all of humanity. So why are they doing this mission? What's in it for the Titan shifters? Are they just doing it for themselves? Or is there another community that they go back to that they're doing this for? We don't know enough about the Titan shifters. And I know we're going to find out this season. I'm dead set. The more we get into this, the more I know we're going to find out. And when we get to that damn basement, we're going to find out things, I hope. But there has to be a mission for a reason. The mission happens for a reason for a specific party or population. What is that to Zeke and the Titan shifters? What is it? And then yeah, that's when Zeke coughs on the coffee and it's like, are you supposed to be a funny character? Because I get really intimidated and scared of you. And then they kick the stuff off and they say, let's go. And then this conversation is really, really important, I think. Because in this conversation, Reiner does not view Bertolt as reliable. He questions whether Bertolt can do anything on his own or if he has to be a support character. And Reiner brings up such a good point in this thing. He's like, Bertolt, I told you a bunch of times you and I are going to be in separate positions. They're going to be separated from each other. So he wants him to think on his own for once. And then Bertolt's like, sure. And he's like, you don't always have to wait for my signal. And that ties back to later on in the episode when Bertolt does get the signal. He did wait for it. But then Bertolt does act on his own. It's kind of funny. Reiner said, you don't have to wait on my signal. Act on your own. Bertolt does wait on his signal, but then he acts on his own. So he kind of ends up doing both, right? And then, yeah, Reiner saying, you're supposed to be the one with the greatest ability of all. Funny that. So it's tying, again, the parallels of Aaron and Bertolt. On humanity's side, Aaron has the greatest power of all. He has the coordinate powers. On the Titan shifter side, Bertolt has the greatest power. He has the Colossal Titan powers. So it seems like we're setting by the end of this episode up for Bertolt versus Aaron. But it's weird because I've never considered Bertolt and Aaron to be foes in this series. Like, I expect Armin and Bertholdt to be foes, especially after this conversation. But I always thought of like Aaron and Reiner, because Aaron and Reiner, they're both hot-headed. They're back in season 2 before Aaron, had an epiphany. They're both like very like brash, bold, not exactly leaders, even though Reiner's kind of the leader of this group. They're brash, they're bold, they make the decisions, they take charge. Take charge is probably the best word for it. But they're the take charge characters, and they both can be hot-headed, and they both are extremely strong in their opinions. So I've always viewed Aaron and Reiner as opponents, especially after season 2. But I've never viewed Aaron and Bertolt as opponents. Their personalities are just too dissimilar. Based on this season, I view more Bertolt and Armin as opponents. But he says, you're supposed to be the one with the greatest ability of all, and yet you leave it to others when it matters. And to be honest, I've never thought of you as reliable. So Bertolt's never been a take charge character, which, again, we're going to tie this to Armin. Yeah, we're going to tie this whole not take charge, because I would argue Armin isn't either. Until this episode, Armin and Bertolt have been very much the sidekick characters. Hell, Aaron called him a damn lackey back in season 2, right? Armin has always been the character on the sideline. Like Mikasa may not be a leader necessarily, but she's take charge. She can get stuff done. Aaron can take charge and get stuff done. But Armin, I would argue, Armin has the potential to be a good leader and to have a lot of strength. He just always doubts himself, and he pulls himself back away from everybody. And I feel like Bertolt does the same thing. Bertolt doubts himself and pulls himself back too. So him and Armin have a lot in common. And And Bertolt gets a little, like, stern when Reiner says he doesn't feel he's reliable, and Bertolt's like, I know. And then now Reiner says, up until now. He says, we're ending this here. And the sky, everything, it parallels Warrior so much. It's such a parallel to Warrior. This whole scene with the sky and everything, it's such a parallel. Yeah. And the sun coming out. He's like, that's right. We're going to win and end this. And then Reiner looking back at him. Keep up that attitude till you're with your beloved Annie. And then, of course, Bertolt's like, and here's the sad thing, y'all. I play devil's advocate, and I'm pretty neutral in all this because, again, we don't know everything about the Titan side. I feel like we know humanity's side of it, and obviously it's easy to side with humanity because we know their side of the story and we know how things are complicated for them. And from the onset of this, it's like we don't understand why the Titan shifters are so adamant about killing them. Like, why are they so adamant about it? But it's so hard, y'all, because I'm not gonna lie, I really like Bertolt's character after this episode. And it's like, when they're up on the wall, him and Reiner, you want to root for them. It's like this show, Isayama, makes it so complicated. Because it's like, you want to root for him in that moment. Because it's like, when Bertolt's like, we're gonna win and end this, it's like, you kind of want them to, but then you're like, wait, no, they're fighting Eren and the others. But yeah, that whole thing there. And then, but here's the thing. Both Reiner and Armin, they try to use Annie against him. They try to use Annie as manipulation. That part floored me. The idea that both Reiner and Armin try to use Annie as manipulation because they know that Bertolt likes her. Reiner uses it as manipulation here, and he's like, I bet even Annie would appreciate the one who rushes in to save her. And I'm like, you guys know Annie's personality, right? I don't know about that. He says, and mistake him for her prince, even if it's you. And that's kind of like a backhanded compliment. That's such a backhanded compliment for Reiner. He's like, she might mistake her rescuer as a prince, even if it's you. It's like, it's kind of insulting him there. I'm like, Bertolt is a very handsome character. Like, he's very attractive. But Bertolt's little blush and everything. But Reiner completely manipulated him there. He's just using that as fodder. And then here's the thing. And Krista will save her no matter what. That's our promise to Ymir. And for a second there, when he says Krista, I was wondering, I was like, did Reiner back into the soldier persona for a second? Because why'd he call her Krista? Because her name's Historia, right? It's like he's not recognizing her as royalty. Well, he doesn't know that. They don't know that she's royalty. The other group learns that after Warrior. But they're like, that's our promise to Ymir. So I get bad vibes. I'm getting bad Ymir vibes. Where is Ymir? I'm getting bad vibes about it all. I don't like this. I don't like, what have they done with Ymir? I don't like it. Nope. Don't like it at all. Nope. He says, our promise to Ymir is to save Krista. So I appreciate that Reiner remembers what Ymir told them to do, that they had to go back and get her. Part of me is like, are they wanting Krista because of their plans and everything? But it's such a weird line. One, the fact that he doesn't call her Historia, because she clearly said her name was Historia around them. I guess they're just not used to it, or they don't realize the significance of her being Historia, so they're just used to calling her Krista. Two, they say that's our promise to Ymir, and they do this weird thing, like Reiner does this thing, like he doesn't do the thing obviously, but he does the thing like that's our promise to Ymir. It makes me think either Ymir is being held hostage somewhere so she can't interfere, or she's dead. I hope it's not the latter, because if she dies off screen, nope. Not about it. And then, yeah, and he says no matter what. So they do intend to go back and get Krista, to get Historia. They do intend to go back and do that. And I'm sorry, this is the moment where he's like, see ya, I'm counting on you, buddy. This is the part where I was like, they're supposed to be the antagonists, but that little like the bump on the shoulder that each of them do, and he says, I'm counting on you, buddy. Like, they're such friends, and then they both hit each other the same way. Leave it to me. and they both turn the other way. You can't help but kind of root for him in that moment. I'm like, you kind of want them to succeed, but then they're the bad guys. Are they the bad guys? You know, again, playing devil's advocate. It's like you want to root for them. I can't hate them. And that's the worst part, is that after knowing what Reiner, I'm more frustrated with Reiner in all of this, because Reiner, but yeah, it seemed like Bertolt and Annie would have taken the time to talk to Marco, and at least, I don't know if they would have ended up killing him or not. They probably would have, but they would have at least talked they would have created some kind of dialogue. Even if it ended with them attacking Marco and killing him, there would have been some dialogue. Reiner didn't even stop for the dialogue. He did the Rod Reese approach. He was like, nope, shoot him, let's get him over with, he's done. Reiner did the Rod Reese thing, paralleling what he wanted to do to Kenny back when Uri and Kenny met, right? And so you kind of have like a Bertolt and Uri sort of situation, where if Bertolt had stopped Reiner and said, no, let's talk with him, it wouldn't have happened, because during Trost, where the mission was going on, there was Titans everywhere, things were more chaotic. It wouldn't have happened. But I just feel like there's a parallel there with Reiner and Rod Reese in let's just kill him and go on with it, versus Bertolt and Annie seemed like maybe they wanted to talk things out and they were a little more empathetic. So I am a little frustrated with Reiner in this episode, because I'm like, well, Reiner, you just killed Marco without hesitation. But also, he kind of manipulates Bertolt a little bit by using Annie. And that, even if he's sincere about it, is kind of using her a little bit, knowing that Bertolt likes her, and then Armin does it later on. But it's like you just I feel for Bertolt in this episode, because he kind of comes onto his own, and we're going to talk about this. Oh my God. But so Bertolt's in the barrel. Yep, it's Donkey Kong. Bertolt is in the barrel. And he's waiting for the signal. And it's like Reiner said, you didn't have to wait on the signal, but Bertolt was going to. Man, and they just lobbed his head off. But my whole thing was, they blew his head off, but I was like, y'all celebrated way too soon. Because one, you didn't get his nape. You didn't get his nape. You didn't bite the nape, or you didn't destroy the nape. So just destroying the head, you guys have established on regular Titans, if you just if you just blob off part of the head, it grows back, right? Rod Reese had half his face missing and was still alive. So that was signal one, that Reiner wasn't dead. Signal two was that the Titan wasn't disintegrating. It wasn't steaming away. And I was like, you would think the Hanji and them would have noticed and been like, that's odd. You're not disintegrating or evaporating automatically. And Jean tries to chime in and be like, serves you right, scumbag. And then he looks down and sees Connie and Sasha crying. And them obviously being sad. And then Jean's like, well, damn it, I wanted to be sad too, but I'm trying to be strong. And you guys are making me realize that that's... And then, yeah, Jean tries to snap him out of it, saying it's not over yet, but Connie and Sasha... Of course Connie would cry, you know. He's like, don't cry, we're the ones who killed him. And I love Aaron crouched at Reiner's level, looking at him. I love that visual. And Aaron just has this look like something isn't right. Aaron has this look on her face like, that can't be it, right? You know? And so, the idea of Hanji being like, okay, this isn't over yet. And then Mikasa and Armin. God. And then, this is it. Yeah, Armin says it's not like we had any chance to negotiate. I never thought I would be comparing Armin and Uri, kind of. But I never really thought about that. But in reality, Armin wanting freedom beyond the walls, it's kind of an odd situation, because it's kind of opposite of what Uri wanted. Uri wanted a paradise within the walls. Armin wants freedom outside the walls. But both of them kind of wanted to get to it through a more non-violent kind of pacifist means, right? So that's interesting. And Armin kind of talked about the same thing that Uri's talking about. Armin wanted to have a moment to have this negotiation and dialogue. Armin wanted to have that. And it just didn't happen. And they didn't have a choice with Reiner. So it's interesting that Armin's touching on that issue right here. And Mikasa takes off her hand like, excuse me? Negotiation. But Armin brings up a really good point. He's like, our side has an overwhelming lack of information. Yes! All of my questions. Armin is exactly right. Armin's like, we know virtually nothing about the Titans. We're just like babies learning as we go. If we could talk with Bertolt and Reiner and try to, use them to get information and learn something about the Titans and find out why we're even having this battle to begin with, that'd be great, right? So I get what Armin is saying here. He's not wrong. They don't have a lot of info. He's like, the problem is we don't have the power to capture someone who can turn into a Titan. That's the problem. You have Eren, but Eren is only so strong, and then you have multiple Titan shifters that are stronger than Eren physically. So it's a conundrum, right? It's a conundrum. There was nothing we could do. Yeah. He's like, that presents itself the problem. Armin wants to create a dialogue. He wants to learn about the Titans, but they just can't do it. It's kind of like the whole issue of, it's our conundrum with Bertolt and Annie saving Marco. They just couldn't do it because of the situation that had been created, right? There was neither party believes there's a chance for this miracle to happen. Neither of them believes that's a possibility. Marco and Annie, or Bertolt and Annie back at Trost, they were like, Marco knew too much and there was no chance of having that dialogue, so they killed him. And then in this episode, we find out that Armin's like, I want to have this dialogue. I want to learn about the Titans. I want to know why they're fighting us, but we can't get that started. So it's frustrating, and I totally get their frustration. And Mikasa has this look on her face like she's pondering the same thing Armin is. She's like, well, I hadn't thought about it that way. She has that look on her face like, that is a problem, right? What can we do? And you wonder if Mikasa's thinking too, if we could talk to the Titans and get information, if that would help Eren. I'm sure she's thinking of that. But then Reiner wakes up and he makes the signal. And we come to find out that it was all because he transferred his consciousness to the rest of the body instead of his own head. And I like that Levi and Erwin are like, what? And then here comes the quadruped. That tracking shot. That tracking shot's great. And then Bertolt's in the barrel. And then what's in the other barrel, though? There are two barrels. So what's in the other barrel? Bertolt's in one. Is Ymir in the other barrel? We don't know. But yeah, the Beast Titan chucks it. Donkey Kong, baby. Donkey Kong, yeah. And then Hanji's like, let's kill him now and get rid of him while we still can. And then Armin's like one step ahead of everybody. He's like, yeah, that scream was for Bertolt. And then they see the barrel. And Armin's like, well, shit, he's in the barrel. We got to get away from Reiner. Because the Colossal Titan's coming. And yeah, the idea that it's a nuclear blast, basically, when he comes out of it. And, oh my gosh, that would suck for Reiner, for Bertolt to be inside the barrel, like, going super fast. Okay. Information available for public disclosure. Dark liquid. Believed to be a beverage consumed by the Titan shifters while they're camping out. Confirmed to have a pleasant aroma from the remaining liquid found. Its origin is unknown, but this suggests the existence of an outside culture that consumes luxury goods similar to black tea. So yeah, that is a really good point. Luxury goods. That is a really good point. So they got coffee from somewhere. It was ground up from somewhere. This series, we know so little about what's outside the walls that back in season 2, I was thinking, oh, there's a whole city. That city by the sea is a thing. There's all these Titan shifters everywhere, which clearly I don't think there is Titan shifters everywhere, because then why wouldn't they just storm the walls and destroy it? Back to the whole shifter conundrum. But there could be a culture of people outside the walls. Why do they view the wall people as a different race, and an evil one at that? Why? But to have coffee, someone would have had to ground the coffee beans. There would have to be that technology. We've established the serum was created supposedly with technology that's more advanced than the wall people. So there's a whole other world that we don't know about. And that's why I'm so curious. And the whole fact that there's coffee suggests that there's a culture that's outside the walls that has these luxury goods. So it's curious. I don't know why, but it's curious. I want to know more. And I feel like we're getting closer and closer to those answers, but we're just not there yet. So yeah, and then Erwin's like, well, shit, they threw the damn monkey through the barrel. They got us. Yeah, the Colossal Titan's inside the walls. And so yeah, they're all... I don't think that Hanji's dead. There's no way they killed her off screen, her and Moblet. I just... Again, but then it's questionable because... It's problematic because they killed Marco off screen and then we found out about it later. But... So they could kill Moblet and Hanji off screen, but I just don't think that they will. Moblet and Hanji are pretty... I could see a lot of the squad members dying from Bertolt transforming. I can see a lot of them dying, but for some reason, Moblet and Hanji, I can see them dying in this battle, but not off screen because Bertolt transformed. I feel like it's going to be like in the moment during the battle that they die. So when Armin suggests they're the last ones standing, I'm like, I think there could be maybe a couple others still around, but we don't know for sure. But yeah, the idea of the impact that Bertolt makes when he transforms, that's, yeah, I'll blow this whole place away. And he's about to bite his hand. He doesn't have a knife on him. He could have had a knife on him, but he doesn't. And that's when he spots Reiner. And he waits. And here's the thing. He thinks on his own. And he gets over there. Because if he had transformed right then and there on top of Reiner, he would have killed Reiner. Yep. He would have killed him. So Bertolt pauses and waits before he transforms. And then, yeah. And then he checks to see if he's still alive. And I like that he puts his hand to his heart. And he can feel it. Saying he's alive, but he's transferred his consciousness. Yeah, throughout the whole nervous system. That's such a crazy ability. That's so freaky that you can transfer it to your entire nervous system to get it away from the nape and the brain. Yeah, it's freaky. The fact that he can actually do that, it's like a last-ditch effort, absolutely, because he's extremely vulnerable now. And then Bertolt's, the way his eyes are shadowed. Oh my gosh. Yeah. He's like, and here's the thing, Bertolt cares for Reiner. He's his friend, his comrade. And he knows, in that moment when his eyes are shadowed, he knows he's got to transform. And he's got to do this. There's no question now. But he wants Reiner to lay down so that his body is protected when he transforms. Oh my God. He's like, I'm going to need you to move a little. And he's like, if you can't, I'm sorry, prepare for the worst. I was like, when he said that, I was like, oh, prepare for the worst. Awesome. Great. So I'm ending this. So Bertolt taking responsibility. And again, parallels to Eren. It's crazy. And so Hanji makes a note that our objective just fell into our laps. And she calls it lucky. And I'm like, I wouldn't call it lucky. Not at all. And then they know that Bertolt's coming over. And Armin is just sitting there thinking, like, what can we do? And Hanji's plan is that the Levi squad protects Eren under Armin's commands. And the others work to take the other targets down. And it's like, okay. But Armin stops them. Armin's like, no. He's like, this is our final chance to negotiate. Connecting Armin to Marco. Armin wanted to be like Marco. He wanted to talk to them. He's like, let's talk things out. Marco was a cinnamon bun, a total angel, a saint, but he was smart enough to be like, he was sharp. And he's like, what if we talk this out? What if we can negotiate? And this negotiation is so interesting. So interesting. He tells Bertolt to stop. And they're on like opposite spires. Man, that shot of them on the opposite spires. I want to take a picture of it. The shot of them on the opposite spires facing each other. Like a standoff. Like a negotiation, right? And then, Eren, what are you trying to accomplish? Why are you doing this? And that's the thing. That's the thing I talked about before this episode started. That had been pointed out by Moth. That you pointed out. The idea that Moth and Cole pointed out. The idea that Armin represents the non-violent approach to freedom, right? That it could be possible to have this dialogue. Like, we need to try, right? the whole thing is that I noted in the last episode was the idea that when you're in a position, and I noted this maybe in episode 13, but the idea that when you're in a position of power and you have the upper hand, you can use that to create a dialogue. And Armin kind of has that in this moment, and he tries to do that, but he picked the worst time to do it, because he picked the time when Bertolt got the Resolve no Jutsu, and it's like, damn it. And I'm going to have to flip this over. I was like, I've got to flip this over now. So, in this moment, we have the talk. Not the talk that Levi's going to have with Aaron and Historia. No. We have the talk between Bertolt and Armin. And the problem with all this, in between our little sparks here, and out to the side, Aaron is trying to understand why Armin is doing this. And I like that Aaron gets to see this, the why. Like, why is Armin doing this? And so Armin wants to negotiate to get more info. He wants to understand the other side. The problem is that Bertolt has just got his resolve, and he thinks that the only way the mission is going to be accomplished is by the death of the humans. And Aaron. So they're at two totally different points right now, and they just don't realize it. And Armin and Mikasa comment later, they're like, Bertolt seems like a different person. It's like, because Bertolt's like up against the wall. Like Bertolt, literally up against the wall, right? So, he says, let's talk this over. And Bertolt looks so unconvinced. He's like, if I agree to talk, would you all agree to die? And Armin's like, oh. And he's like, we just want two things. We want Aaron and the demise of humanity in the walls. That's the harsh truth of reality. It's been decided already. And Armin's like, who decided this? That's the thing. That's the thing. Bertolt believes that the only way to victory is to get Aaron and to kill the wall people. I would say kill humanity, but he just says humanity within the walls. He doesn't say all of humanity. He just says those in the walls. So, and for Armin, victory is being able to leave the walls. So it kind of is, they're coming at this from very, very different perspectives. But Armin asks the very important question, who decides why they're fighting? Who decides that? Yeah, he brings up a really good point. Who decided any of that? And then Bertolt says, I decided. That was me. He says, I decided it. Your lives are coming to an end right here. Which is not true. Bertolt may have decided to act on it, but he was told by Zeke that this is the way it has to go down. And he made Bertolt has made the choice for it to end here with him, so that, because he doesn't want to put anyone else through the hell that him and Reiner have been through, becoming the Titans. And then Armin gets mad and he uses Annie. It's like, you ought not have done that. And then Bertolt's like, ugh. And Armin tries to do his deception with Annie 2.0, but Bertolt's like, I'm not having it. He's like, fine by me. He's like, let him feed her to the pigs. And you have to wonder if part of it is, and I love that shot of them fighting each other on top of the wall there. That's great. And you have to wonder if part of it is because Zeke has convinced him that she's not being tortured and that it was all just a ruse, or if it's Bertolt's resolve that he'll worry about Annie later, and so he's pushed her to the back of his mind. He's not thinking about her right now. He's not going to let that ruin the mission. But he says, what's the rush? Aren't we going to talk? Ugh. And just that duel between them. I never thought I would see Armin and Bertolt against each other on a rooftop with swords at each other. Like, I feel very proud for Armin in this moment, because I'm like, Armin, you're standing up and fighting someone that clearly has the upper hand in terms of strength. Clearly. Like Bertolt's like, what, number 3? Bertolt was number 3 of all of them, I think. Yeah, because Annie was 4 and Aaron was 5. Bertolt's like the 3rd strongest. It went Mikasa, Reiner, Bertolt. And then Bertolt's like, did you just use Annie to try to make me lose my cool? Was that it? Since I'm the meek and timid Bertolt, that you could fool me into letting my guard down? Ah. And then Jean, I love that Jean's standing on top of Aaron's shoulder of all people. That Jean is like, whoa. Well, like, let Armin do this. You've got a slim chance against him. Yeah, exactly. This isn't your fight yet. Mm-hmm. And then Aaron's more concerned about Armin. He's like, and I like there's steam inside of Aaron. Like there's steam inside of Aaron. It's interesting. And he's like, you're just buying time. So that's the problem. Bertolt is like, you're just buying time. You're letting the other Survey Corps members get to Reiner, and you're buying time before I transform. Like, you're just doing this as a ruse. And a part of it's like, yeah, that was kind of Hanji's deal. But then a part of it's like, no, Armin did want to talk to you. He just wants to know information. He's like, you're surrounding me. It's similar with Annie, right? There's a parallel with Annie in Smile. And he's like, I can tell. You're staying there shaking. And God, the parallel to Smile in this. Oh, and in Smile, they wanted Annie to descend into the underground. And she wouldn't do it. God, there's a parallel of Armin to Annie and Bertolt in here. In that Armin was trying to deceive Annie to get her to come down with them. And Annie realized that that she'd been surrounded. And was like, I played the good person like you wanted me to, but that's not who I really am. And then she could like let loose and reveal who she was. Bertolt's kind of doing the exact same thing here. He's like, you want me to just stand around and talk to you, and you can't do anything about it, and you're just trying to surround me. And so Bertolt lets loose and becomes his own person. Isayama, the parallels, my dude. And I like Armin says, if you knew that much, then why'd you even come to talk to begin with? And Bertolt's like, it's to prove to myself that I wasn't going, because yeah, back in episode 11 of season 2, he was whining and begging for forgiveness. And he hadn't accepted his mission. He says, I'm fine now. That's the most heartbreaking thing. That's the most heartbreaking thing about this episode, is that these characters getting their resolve and resolving to fight for the cause, it completely eliminates the idea of what Uri was trying to get at, is that the only way we're going to stop this is by having a conversation, is by having the talk. That's the only way it's going to end. And the idea of people's pride, of what they're a slave to, what these characters are slaves to, is hindering that ability. And Bertolt is just like Armin. He's a slave to freeing himself from this mission. And it's just, it's blindsided him. Like, I felt so empathetic to Bertolt back in episode 11 of season 2 when he was begging for forgiveness. And he was asking, back then, he was asking for someone to understand them. He was asking for what Uri wanted. He was like, I just want you all to have a conversation with us and to find us and understand us and save us. And back then, you feel so empathetic to Bertolt. And here, it's like, he's just putting that aside. Like, that's weak. This is strength. And it's like, I'm going to say it right now. The death flags, I know it seems impossible, and I have no clue how they're going to even begin to fight Bertolt. I have no clue how they're even going to begin to do it. I don't know how. I don't know how they can unless he just exerts too much energy, right? He's so strong, but he can only use it for a limited amount of time. I don't know how, but at the end of this episode, I was like, are the death flags out for Bertolt? I think they might be, because him saying, I'm fine now. It's like, you've just, I don't want to say he sealed his fate, but he's like, you are precious comrades to me, and I also intend to kill you. I'm like, well, that's, he's like, I love you, but you have to die. And it's like, well, why? And Armin's like, is it because you think we're the spawn of the devil? Which goes back to what Reiner said about them being an evil race. Reiner seems to think that they're the spawn of the devil. And Armin's like, is it because of what I did to you? Do you want me to die because of how I deceived you? And Bertolt says, no, none of you have done anything wrong and you're not devils. So it's like, but you all still have to die. It's like, well, why? Isayama! devils. They're not an evil race according to Bertolt. They're precious to him, but they still have to die. Why? That's the question, right? That's just how it is. And Mikasa's like, freak, screw this. No. And Mika says like, no, had enough. I'm tired of listening to you. And she cuts off his ear. And then him fighting her. Like God. These Ackermans, they're trying to do their best. And Bertolt clearly wasn't caught off guard this time though. And he zooms away. And she's like, damn it. If we don't keep our distance, we'll get caught in another explosion. Reiner's on the verge of death, and if he did transform, he'd finish Reiner off. I'm like... And the problem is Mikasa attacking Bertolt just reaffirms his thought that that's what they were planning all along, and Armin really just wanted to have a conversation, and it just didn't happen. It's like all their hubris, their pride, their focus on this mission, and whatever they're a slave to is getting in the way of them having a dialogue, and it's frustrating. Ever since episode 10, Isayama's like, hey, here's this really cool concept that kind of relates to the entire theme of the show. And I'm like, oh, awesome. Are we going to have our characters do that? And Isayama's like, nope. Like, Isayama, why would you be so cruel to us? And I feel like Bertolt, what he says in his monologue, is like Isayama saying, yep, the world's cruel. Not going to give you what you want. It's like, It seemed like he had some sort of plan, though. Yeah, so what was the plan? And then Bertolt, here's the thing. Mikasa, when she attacked Bertolt fought back pretty well. Like, Bertolt was able to hold his own. And to the point where he kicked her in the elbow, and she luckily had that guard protecting her. But she was like, is that really the Bertolt that we knew just now? Like, the one that's insanely calm. He seemed like a different person. Yeah, and then Armin's like, me too. When Armin said me too, I was like, oh, like, our characters, like, what are they becoming because of this battle, you know? And they try to get to the armored Titan, but he's already laid back down to protect himself. And then we go inside, and inside the armored Titan, you can see that he's like regrowing his face. Awesome. And then Bertolt being like in the zone, saying, this is a very strange feeling. I'm not scared at all. I can see everything clearly. And this is the part where I got death flags for Bertolt. When he says, I feel like no matter how this all plays out, I can accept whatever happens. I was like, well, death flags for Bertolt then. I don't know how. I don't know when. I don't know how he would die in this scenario. But the moment he says, no matter how this plays out, I can accept whatever happens. I'm like, so even if you die? What? It's like he's in the zone and he's calm. And he reaches this like Zen moment where he just gives up all of his concerns and his fears about Annie and everything else. And nobody's in the wrong. There's nothing we could do. God, we're going to talk about parallels in this, but that parallel of nothing we can do, that is Royal Family Rod Reese thinking. When Rod Reese was like, there's nothing we can do. It's all the will of a higher power. I guess we'll just let things be and just go with the flow. That's how I felt whenever he was giving the speech. I'm like, Bertolt, when he's like, nobody's in the wrong. Because it's kind of like, and it kind of goes back to Uri too in the weirdest way. Because Uri was like, Kenny has every right to hate us. Kenny has every right to hate us. We've persecuted their families. But this is the frustrating part. Oh my gosh, this series. This is the frustrating part. Because yeah, Bertolt's whole thinking in this moment is similar to the conversation Uri and Kenny are having, right? It's similar because Bertolt's saying that nobody's wrong. He's like, it's how do I phrase this? Bertolt is suggesting nobody's wrong. It's okay that you're mad at us for killing your friends and family. You have every right to be mad at us. We've done horrible things, and I care about you, but despite all of that, instead of starting a dialogue, here's where it breaks off. Here's where it branches away from Uri. Both Uri and Bertolt knew that they'd done wrong, right? Uri's like, Uri, if this is Uri and this is Bertolt, Uri's saying, Kenny, I know we persecuted your family, and that was wrong. Bertolt, I know we've killed people, and that's wrong. Uri's like, I know that things we've done in the past have caused you to want to retaliate against us, and I get why you're doing it. Bertolt's like, everything we've done in the past has caused you to retaliate against us, and I get why you're doing it. And then Uri's like, nobody's in the wrong in this situation. Bertolt, nobody's in the wrong. But Uri is like, it's just the way things are. Bertolt's like, it's just the way things are. But the difference is that Bertolt says it's because this world is just that cruel. And that shot of him above the city, and you see all of Shiganshina, and he's like, the world is just cruel. And that's why we're doing this. And I'm like, but why? I'm like, what did humanity do? Why are they cruel? Why is the world cruel to you? Like, what? And what I feel the difference is in that moment, Bertolt's like, there's no point in having a dialogue because it won't change anything, right? Whereas I think Bertolt and Uri have the same views on their situations, but the critical juncture is that with Bertolt and Armin, Bertolt chose not to lay down his sword and talk with Armin in the face of danger, right? Because Kenny could have possibly killed Uri, but he didn't because he was moved by Uri's compassion in that moment. Bertolt, I'm not saying Bertolt probably would have died if he laid down his sword because of everybody else. That's the problem with it all. But if it had just been Bertolt and Armin in that moment, and Bertolt had laid down its swords, they could have possibly had a conversation, but it didn't happen. It didn't happen. There wasn't just Rod Reese with Bertolt and Armin. There was an entire survey corps and an entire mission layered on top of it. So the circumstances are definitely different between them, but it's interesting that Isayama presents Bertolt and Uri up until a certain point with having similar views of their situations, but then Uri follows through and actually creates a dialogue with Kenny. Bertolt doubles down and is like, nah. Bertolt kind of becomes the Rod Reese in that situation, is like, there's nothing we can do to change it. We just got to accept it the way it is. The world's just cruel and that's the way it is, and goes along with it. And it's like, Isayama, why did you let Friends happen? Now I'm just going to it's going to consume me, the concept of this show and its theme and all the moral ambiguity that goes with it. And then, and then there we go. And they like get out of here. Okay, now in that moment, Moblit moved to get over the side of Hanji. So I'm wondering if Moblit went to like shove her into a building or something to get her out of the way or get out of the blast. I wonder if that's the case. If Moblit, I don't want Moblit to die, but I could see Moblit sacrificing himself to save Hanji. I could. And if they killed Moblit off screen or they showed us a flashback of Moblit dying, I could see it happening. I don't want it to happen. I don't want Moblit to die, but I could see it. So that's interesting. Okay. And then, poor Erwin. Erwin's stuck up there, and then that blast, y'all, that explosion of him transforming, and it just like wipes out houses and everything. And then poor Jean is like hanging off of Eren, and Armin is like grabbing a hold of Mikasa, and everybody just gets blown away. I don't know how Hanji and Moblit survived that, but God. And it's just like a blast. Oh my God. And Erwin's like, well, shit. Great. The CGI on the Colossal Titan is a little weird, but I don't know how they could have avoided that. I guess they could have drawn him just fully 2D, but then I guess it would have not been consistent with how he's been the entire series. So he was 2D in season 1 though, right? It's odd. But he didn't have a lot of movement to him. That's the thing. And I like that Eren made his hand into armor to protect Sasha and them. So yeah, the immediate houses in the vicinity were all destroyed. And then Bertolt became the Colossal Titan. Yep, and then it shows that, oh god, it shows that Reiner's still okay. And like the tendons and everything inside the Titan are like squeezing, like they're building his brain and his head back up. Ugh. Gross. And then they wonder if the only ones that survived are the Levi squad. And then Bertolt just starts crushing things. And he just starts grabbing debris and throwing it to make like just a disaster zone, like just a massacre. And yeah, it just makes like a ring of fire and debris and just destruction. Oh my god. And then I like that Mikasa is such a calming presence in this episode in the weirdest ways. She is like, she knows Armin is distressed. And so she puts the hand on his shoulder and she's like, and she's very soft about it. She's like, you're in command. If we're the only ones left and we're the Levi squad, Hanji said that you were in command. We follow your orders. What do we do? What do we do? And Christopher Peterson, I was going to note you back from episode 13. I was saving it to the end here, but this is a good time to bring it up. That Mikasa, since episode 12, has kind of distanced herself a little bit from Armin and Eren. And back in episode 12, she was saying, like, you guys are always in your own conversation. You guys are always, you know, a step ahead of me in your own conversation. Kind of saying that they have their own ideals and their own dream they're following. And Mikasa feels like she's not a part of that. And I kind of felt bad for Mikasa in the episode. And I felt kind of bad for her since then, because she seems like she's distancing herself from Eren and Armin just a bit. Which I kind of wanted her to do that back in the recap, but I still feel a little bad for her because you can tell she's not happy about it. But she's doing it kind of to keep them in their best interests. But I love how soft she is here and how she's like an anchor for Armin, like trying to keep him like steady. Like I like that. I like that she does that for him. And the way that she comforts Armin is a lot different than Eren. She does things differently for each of them, which is curious. And Armin's like, I'm in charge. And he's like, we retreat. And at first he's like, we retreat, we rally the commander for new orders. And here's the thing. I love that Armin and Jean are the leaders in this situation. That it's not just Armin, it's Armin and Jean. And it's like this whole series has been setting it up for this moment. Because ever since season 1, ever since the Forest of the Giant Trees back in episode 18, when we had Armin and Jean having these conversations with one another, it was so cool because Armin and Jean are very different characters, but they challenge each other in interesting ways, kind of like Levi and Erwin. I guess I could see where you guys would ship Armin and Jean. I guess I see it now. I don't personally, but I could see why somebody would. But they challenge each other, and anytime Armin has an idea, Jean challenges it and says, okay, well, what about this? Did you think about this? And Armin they can kind of go back and forth, right? And in this, Armin is so distraught and panicked. He's like, Armin's probably thinking, did I fail everybody? Did me talking with Bertolt and not immediately going with Hanji said, did I doom us all? Is it my fault? If Hanji and all of them died, is that because of me and my decision making her hesitate? What did I do? And in that moment, Armin's like, he's so panicked that his immediate thought is, okay, we'll go back to Erwin and I won't be a leader. I'll just let Erwin just give me commands and I'll just follow and we'll do that. And we'll just go back to how things were before he made me a leader. But Jean is like not having it. And Armin, even as Armin says this, you can tell he's not thinking. He's just like on autopilot. He's like, we'll engage in the Colossal Titan in a battle of attrition as originally planned. Like, it's like the autopilot, like just speaking as previously recorded. And Jean says, hold up. Jean's like, it'll be a disaster if we let Bertolt near the others in the wall. We can't do that. No, we can't let Bertolt get near Erwin and the others. Erwin can't defend himself. We can't do that. He's like, nah. He's like, we got to fight him head on. No. And I like in Isayama, this whole dire, desperate, horrific scenario that's happening, Isayama's like, here's a cute drawing of Bertolt as the Colossal Titan, chucking burning homes. It's like, isn't that cute? I'm like, it kind of is, but no. But yeah, Jean is like, if the houses on the inner gate catch fire, then it's just going to trap Marlowe and the others between the fire and the Beast Titan. And then we're doomed. Our horses are screwed. We can't do that. We have no choice but to defeat Bertolt right here. Now, how are we going to do it? I don't know. I don't know. And Aaron is like, let's do this. Aaron is like, he's so fired up. Aaron's like, yeah, let's go battle Bertolt. Let's get it on. And Sasha and Connie are like, we just dealt with having to get rid of Reiner, and now you want us to kill another one of our friends? Okay. And Mikasa's like, yeah, I get that we have to do this. Mikasa, you can tell, is thinking, this is not going to go well. Mikasa's seeing the writing on the wall of how dangerous this is going to be. But their house is falling on them, so it's like, what do we do? And Connie and Sasha are like, say something, Armin. And then Armin's like, ugh. And then there's just the Colossal Titan standing up and like a rain of hellfire around him. And then again, we cut to Levi, and Levi's on the other side of the wall with Marlowe and them, you know? And then there's Erwin looking and the Colossal Titan looks right at Erwin. And you can see there's just decimation, like there's like a ground zero all around Bertolt, and house is on fire. Like Shiganshina, they may reclaim Wall Maria, but Shiganshina, they just want to tear that whole place out and gut it and redo the whole thing, because it's kind of beyond, the collateral damage is insane. And then I like that Erwin's like, okay, what are you going to do, Beast Titan? He's like, the ball's in our court now. Obviously, we're probably going to fight Bertolt. But what are you going to do, Beast Titan? Is this exactly what you wanted? And the Beast Titan's like, I don't know. Like, just sitting there trolling. I have a feeling that, yes, this is what the Beast Titan wanted. They wanted Bertolt and Reiner to be inside the walls. And I mean, obviously the advantage is to the warrior crew right now, because Reiner is healing himself. Once he's healed, he's going to be back in action again. Bertolt is the Colossal Titan, so he's the strongest thing there and the biggest threat, and he could chuck houses. The position is, it's just the Levi squad versus him, because Levi and the others can't go back, right? I wonder if Levi's going to go back to help them, if he's going to ignore Erwin's orders and go back to help them take on Bertolt, because he sees that Bertolt's the biggest threat right now. And he's going to hold off on the Beast Titan. There's so much room for error now, right? It's really the upper hand is with the Titan shifters now, because they can't get to Reiner. They can't kill him because he's laying on the ground healing himself. They can't kill Reiner. Bertolt's transformation has probably killed most of the Survey Corps. I hope Moblit and Hanji are alive, but I don't know how they are, but I hope that they are. We don't know that, though. But the Thunder Spears are probably destroyed. Great. And then you have a really inexperienced Survey Corps squad of Armin and the others, and you have Aaron, and Aaron's strong in Titan form. He could probably take on Reiner. He can't take on Bertolt. There's no way. No. And Bertolt has that defense mechanism of his steam. It's the weirdest thing. I felt like death flags came out for Bertolt in this episode when he had that little monologue. But then, I don't know how. There's so much room for error. And I'm sure the Beast Titan's like, well, we have the upper hand. What are you going to do, Erwin Smith? How are you going to combat this? He's like, we just have to sit here and wait it out. Like, that's all we have to do. Because you're not going to kill Bertolt. How can you? I don't know how they're going to face Bertolt. I really don't. This is like the worst time for Bertolt to find his resolve. The worst time for Bertolt to decide that he has resolve now. Great. And the bad thing is, it's like you feel for Bertolt and Reiner because we don't know the full side of the story, but I also don't want Armin and the other. I don't want any of them to die. That's the problem. I don't want any of these characters to die. And clearly they're setting up that characters are going to have to die, and I don't like that. Isayama. A cruel world indeed. And the whole thing with Bertolt saying it's a cruel world ties back to Mikasa in so many ways. It parallels her. It parallels Mikasa. by saying that this world is cruel and that's why we do the things that we do. So in that instance, Bertolt not only parallels Armin in a lot of ways, he also parallels Mikasa. Bertolt's like being a different person. He's got Mikasa style resolve, and that's when you have a Colossal Titan like that, that's terrifying. Because the meek and timid Bertolt, who's like introverted and quiet and shy, it's funny that he gets the power of the Colossal Titan. And it almost makes you wonder if it was intentional that they gave Bertolt this power. Because they knew Bertolt would be able to handle it and use it responsibly, right? Because I can't see, you imagine if Eren had the Colossal Titan powers from the start? Can you imagine? There has to be a caveat to the Colossal Titan. There has to be like a time limit or something. Something, because otherwise he's not all powerful, because like why wouldn't he have just destroyed all the walls from the start? There has to be a caveat to his abilities. Like he's slow, we've established that, but there has to be something else and we just don't know it yet. But guys, episode 16's next. I don't like it. Yep. So cool. We're like nearly a third of the way through this part here, and I literally have no idea what we're doing next. I have no clue. None whatsoever. I'm like, I don't know what we're doing with this. I don't know how we're facing Bertolt. I don't know if Moblet and Hanji survived. I don't know if any of the other Survey Corps members survived. I don't know if Levi's going to turn back around and go help the others, because he's probably going to be concerned for Eren and Armin and them. I don't know what Erwin's going to do, if he's going to try to stop Levi, what the deal is. I don't know about the Beast Titan, what his end game is. The Beast Titan being the war chief, he's a strategist, so clearly he's thought this out. When Reiner gets back up, how's that going to affect things? I just don't know. So there's that. But anyway, the only other thing I really have to note in this episode is that Nathalie noted about, this goes back to episode 11, Bystander, about Keith blaming Grisha for cursing him. And this doesn't really tie to the episode, but I wanted to bring it up. Cursing him by making him believe that he was special. Because I questioned that whole cursing thing back in episode 11, and Nathalie brought up a really good point that Keith was cursing Grisha for making him feel like he was special. And then he found out later on that that wasn't true. And it gutted him. It like devastated his soul. And so when he tells Grisha in the forest, he's like, are you going to curse your son too? He was referring to, are you going to make your son, who's not special, feel like he is? And then he's going to be devastated later. Which is kind of what happens. It's kind of what happens, because Eren feels like he's invincible and he has this amazing power, and then he realizes just how limited he is, and maybe he's not special compared to like the other Titan shifters. So Keith wasn't exactly wrong, but of course it's Carla's words that come afterwards that fly in the face and contradict Grisha's words, where Carla's like, everyone's special by just being born. So you can't really, there are going to be prodigies out there, but you can't just say that someone's special and someone's not special. No, everyone's special. It's just some people are really intelligent. Some people are naturally more talented in areas than others, but everyone's born special, no matter who you are. So I like that Carla and Grisha's words were kind of contradictory, right? Because Grisha was talking about how certain people are more special than others, and Carla's words seem to kind of contradict that. So I just thought that was interesting to bring up. But yeah. So episode 16 is next. Fun times. I'll probably wait until I get the comments on episode 14 and the episode 12 before I do episode 16. I'll probably wait till after that before I record episode 16. But oh my gosh, you guys, this is all just, it's craziness. It's great. I love that it's all coming together and there's so many parallels. Nobody's wrong. Who's the enemy? Who knows? But there clearly has to be a stopping point somewhere, right? So the question is, when do we get to it and how? So I'm very curious to know what's going to happen next. But I'm also curious to know what you thought of this reaction. I hope you all enjoyed it. I had to stop and start the reaction a couple times, or my discussion. So I'm not sure how long this has been, but definitely comment down below. If you've got spoilers, make sure to tag them. Make sure to hide them from me. Be like, Romania, don't read, and then skip a lot of lines and do it that way. But in the meantime, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back soon with episode 16. of season 3 of Attack on Titan. Bye.